Welcome to an ugly awesome fan favorite. This episode, I just love doing love interviewing this person, Shiloh, because it was so interesting to me because she's been a friend since college, but the interview brought out. New things I didn't know. It's so fascinating when we know someone for a long time. We get used to talking about certain things and not other things. And when we talk to them in a new format, it brings out new information, which is exciting. And Shiloh's career is exciting. She spent 25 years working in the working with nonprofits, and she's played music for thousands of people, and con, and she's directed so many choirs, and just she's fascinating. You're not going to want to miss this. Enjoy.
Today's guest, Shiloh Oorlog.
Please help me welcome Shiloh. Shiloh.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, thanks for being here.
You know, I was listening to that long bio, and I don't think I put anywhere in there that I'm a mom. And if Leah listens to this and hears me not say I'm a mom, I'm in big trouble. That's my most important job.
Yeah,
Just had to get that out there.
Yeah, definitely. In addition, Shiloh is a mom. Well,
Yeah.
I got tired even trying to read your whole bio.
Yeah, I got tired when I wrote it. I realized that's probably why I'm so tired all the time.
So let's start when you were young. How did you first find that you enjoy playing and singing?
I was trying to remember that a while ago. I was talking to my dad about it, and I don't know. I don't remember a time when I did not play the piano, and I don't remember a time when I wasn't singing while I did it. So I don't really know how it started. When I go out and sing, there's a lady from home who listens to us who always says that when I was like 2 or 3 years old, I would sit on the piano bench at her house and play the piano all nicely and everything. And she wouldn't let anybody else play because they hounded on it and everything. But I was just so nice to it. So she let me play. So apparently forever.
At 2 or 3 to know to understand that you don't pound on a piano.
Yeah. Still makes me crazy when kids pound on a piano.
So then when did you first start getting lessons?
I started taking lessons in 3rd grade. And then I took lessons until about 8th grade, and then I just kinda did my own thing after that, and
And that's piano lessons, right?
yeah.
And did you sing when did you start singing?
I always sang in choir and stuff, but then when I was a senior in high school, I played the piano for the choir instead of singing for it, and then that's when I kinda thought I must not be a singer because they wanted me behind the piano, so that must be where I belonged, and so then it wasn't until, like, I don't know, only about 15 years ago when I started playing for church more regularly, and then I needed to cantor for church sometimes, and then people would say I did a good job, and I'm like, "I guess I can sing? I guess." I still prefer to do harmony and stuff. I'm not really a soloist in my mind, but I can pull it off if I have to.
So singing came back into your life kind of out of necessity.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's amazing the stories we tell ourselves. Maybe when you were in high school, your senior year, maybe they just really needed a piano player.
They did really need a piano player, but in my head, it was because I didn't belong as a singer, so
So well, between grade school and high school, in a career, sometimes people lose their passion. How do you maintain your passion for playing during those
when I
years where
was
people tend to get
sure.
distracted?
When I was preparing for college and everybody was asking me, "Where are you gonna go? What are you gonna do?" And they all thought I was gonna do something for music, and that wasn't ever on my list because I didn't want music to be my job, because I thought it would take too much enjoyment out of it if it was stressful. And
Wow.
so I never did anything with music. I was in the community band in college, and that was enough. I mean, that's all I did. But I had a piano in my dorm room, a little keyboard, and I always played, and because that's always what's been how I calm myself down if I'm anxious or frustrated or nervous or whatever. So I still kept with music, but I just didn't make it the focus of my life. And then in college, I started playing piano for church. So I was there every weekend. And then it just kind of like grew into more. And now all of a sudden, there are people who only know me as a musician. And that's kind of full circle back to high school, I guess.
And now you're one of the many things that fascinates me is now you're a choir director at your church, but you don't only like do what you need to do in terms of the music for services, you also put on a Christmas cantata?
Yeah, so about 10 years ago, the priest that we had was like, "We should do some sort of a cantata or something," and so we did one. It was just a half-hour thing between services, and then the next year we did another one, and then we're like, "We should do this at Easter time too," so then we did an Easter one, and now we do one for Lent and for Christmas, and they are at least 45 minutes long usually. They're One year we had a whole orchestra with us. Most of the time we just have piano and a keys, but I have like 35 to 40 people that sing with us because you can join that cantata even if you're not in the choir, and you can join it even if you aren't at our church or you aren't even churched at all because
No,
we
no, you tell me.
I know you could join us. You could join us because we just want it's like a form of outreach for us to be able to include everybody and witness to them within the cantata, not just by presenting it to people. So it's just all aboard, man. Anybody who wants in can get in.
So how did you transition or not transition? How did you say yes and into being not only a music player and a singer, but also being a choir director?
That was hard because I started out playing for churches because out of necessity because I was broke and I needed extra income, and that's a really good way in a short amount of time to get some money. So I started playing on the weekends, and one of the churches that I was playing at didn't have a music coordinator, so I'm like, "Okay." I applied for that, I got that, and it wasn't that hard. But then I went to visit another church to fill in for them, and they asked me if I would like to be the choir director, and I'm like, I don't know how to do that." And so I asked a bunch of my friends who I did music stuff with, and I'm like, "Do you think I can do this job?" And they said, "Yeah. Yeah, you can." I'm like, "Well, pays a lot." So, I mean, it doesn't pay a lot, but comparatively to where I was at in life at that point, it paid a lot. And I was like, I'll give it a try. And if you ask people who actually know how to direct, I don't know how to direct. I don't keep the beat right. I don't, none of that. I don't do it right. But the choir can follow me. I have a good communication with them. And a lot of times I'm like, okay, this is what I need you to sound like, and I don't know how to musically tell you that, but I'm gonna tell you logically how to come out that way, and it works out. Because most of the people on our choir aren't professionals either, so I think they appreciate knowing that we're on the same page.
It's in life, it's so tempting, and I've done this so often to like have a new opportunity come and say, thank you, but I can't. I didn't go to school for choir directing. But you actually started doing it, and through doing it, you realized, oh, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I have a unique way of doing it, and it works.
I've been at the church that I'm at now for directing the choir for like 14 years, and I would say it's only been in the last 4 or 5 years that I could actually say, "Hey, I think I'm good at this." You know, people keep coming back, the choir keeps growing, so I must be. But really the only reason I had the confidence to do it in the first place is because they asked me to do it, which meant they must have seen something in me that I didn't know I had, or they were desperate, one of the 2. And, you know, the people around me said, "Yeah, you can do this." And I knew I had a support system. Plus, I know how to Google stuff. If I don't know what I'm doing, I just look it up and I ask other people, and I am not afraid to find resources to help me do my job better.
And it's so awesome that you had encouragement. It reminds me that when we encourage someone at anything, it might not seem like that big a deal to us, but might be a huge thing for them.
Yep, that's exactly right.
You for a lot of well, Leah was growing up for a lot of the time you were a single parent. What is that experience like for people who have not been single parents?
Well, I'm gonna be completely fair here and say that I was a single parent when I had her with me, but we 50-50 parented, and so she was at her dad's half the time, and that is a tremendous gift to be able to give your kids, I think, to not fight and to not, you know, to not let them see the other person and whatever. So it's a little unfair, I feel, to say I was a single parent because I did have that resource there if I needed to. Plus, I had a whole village of friends and family who would always be there to help. But I think a little bit being that single parent and having her at her dad's half the time is how I ended up being so busy, because when she was at her dad's, I would miss her and I was very lonely. And I'm like,
Mm.
well, there's a free night there. What could I do with that? And so then pretty soon I'm doing something on that night and it's not empty anymore. And so I think that kind of contributed to that. Like subconsciously, I just tried to fill all my time while she was gone. So,
Well, so 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 even the even her being gone half the time, you managed to turn into a positive. Oh, then you started at the banquet. Like, how many years has it been now?
just over 16.
15?
16, yeah.
Oh, 16. Wh- for the people hopefully are listening across the country, for people who are from Sioux Falls, will you say a little bit about the banquet?
Sure. We're a nonprofit feeding ministry, and so we serve meals to predominantly low income and homeless people in our community. We have 2 locations. We serve 16 meals a week. It's all volunteer driven, so all the meals are served by volunteers, which means we can keep our staffing low and our costs low. But we serve about probably 500 people a day, and those people wouldn't have any place to eat if it wasn't for us, of course. So, but we're not like a normal soup kitchen where you just slop some food on the tray and they move on. We try to have a welcoming environment. We encourage our volunteers to sit down and visit with our guests and have that community so that they don't feel like they're alone. So maybe they had a bright spot in their day. So we kind of that's why we are a feeding ministry, not just a soup kitchen. So
Because I mean, that's so amazing because, like, we don't only need food or need housing or whatever, we also need community, we need friends, and
Right. We say we feed the body and the soul. And really, yeah, you need that nutrition to be able to continue on with your day, but some of us really need someone to see us and hear us in order to continue on with our day too.
what do you love about the banquet?
I love the volunteers, and I just love watching the people who give up their time to be there for no reason other than because they love the banquet, they love the guests, they want to give up their time. We have volunteers who come in once a week and work at the front desk for us, and listening to them interact with the guests and help them. We get mail for about 500 people, and so people call in and check their mail all the time or come and get it, or they stop in because they need shampoo and this and that. And hearing the volunteers interact with our guests and how much they care for them is awesome.
Hmm,
And
hmm.
just, they could do something else with their time. A lot of us do something else with our time when we have free time, and they're choosing to give that time to others. And I find that admirable.
It sounds beautiful, like you get to see on a daily basis people choosing to be kind to other people.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of places you go, you don't get to see that anymore. And it is a gift, really.
What do you admire about the guests?
Their lives are something that we can't even imagine. You know, when when you run into somebody in the store and they're kind of crabby with you, you don't know what they've experienced that day. When people come through our doors at the banquet, we might be the only place that let them in without questioning them. We might be the only place that let them have a meal without proving that they needed it. The guests might be, completely in poverty, or they might be right at the borderline, and they have to fight for every bit of assistance they can have. And if they come to the banquet, we don't ask them any questions. They can eat. Come and eat with us. That's all. Come get your meal here. That's fine. Do you need some feminine products? Here you go. And the things they have to fight for, just I mean, for basic dignity, they have to fight for, not a never mind, to get some assistance or a job or whatever. And it's like, oh, they should just get a job. They should, do this or that, and everything would be better. But when you when somebody comes in the door and they're like, okay, I got this job, but it takes me 2.5 hours on the bus to get there. So I have to leave by 5:15, and the buses don't leave until 6:30. And then I have to, I mean, the logistics that they have to go through just to get through their day is, we don't realize how hard that is sometimes.
I find it easy to kind of get wrapped up in my own reality and not always. It's hard to appreciate really what other people are going through at some point, especially people in poverty.
I've been broke. I've never been that broke, but I have definitely been broke. And life is harder when you're broke. And it's especially hard if you don't have a support system around you. None of your family can help you either because they're in the same situation, or they're not even here. Or, how do you function at a job all day if you haven't had anything to eat for 2 days? How do you do your job well if you have been sleeping outside with a rock for a pillow and you're supposed to go function at work like a normal person?
Mm.
You know, the banquet also distributes backpacks full of school supplies to kids. We do about 6,000 a year. And we think about that for them too, because how are those kids supposed to study if they don't know if they're going to have anything to eat when they get home? How are you supposed to learn if you don't have any school supplies? How are you supposed to feel like you fit in if everybody looks at you and like, well, they don't have any money. They have a 3-year-old backpack and ratty old pencils and crayons, That affects us every day. our self-perception and how what we think other people see us, so
Talk about anxiety too. I mean, like, we think we're all stressed out about the things in our lives, but not knowing if I'll have enough to eat or well sleep or be
and if
so.
you have kids or you have siblings that you're trying to care for, it just compounds that concern because, you know, you think to yourself, "Well, I know where I can get this much food, but I have to make that last for 3 or 4 people, and so I'm just gonna go without because they need it more," and then, I mean, I don't know. I get really hangry, I can't even imagine, and that's just after, like, 4 hours of not eating, so I can't even imagine my how my chemicals would react in my brain if I had to go days without eating.
What what do you encourage? What would you encourage people watching to do to help with?
I think it goes back to something you said earlier where you just gotta have kindness and compassion for what people are going through, and think about how you got where you are and what assistance and stepping stones you might have had because of your socioeconomic position in life, and imagine if all that was stripped away. How would you do it? How would you do it if you didn't have parents that could help you? How would you do it if you didn't have, you know, an education? How would you do it if you didn't know how to get your next meal? All you're thinking about is your next meal. You know, you got to have some compassion for those people that you see that you want to just look at them and be like, "Ugh, get a job, get a, go do this, go do that." Life is hard for some people, you know. And then a lot of that you compound a mental illness on top of that. It's we don't know what they're living, and you need to have compassion, and then go volunteer. Go talk to somebody who's in those positions so you can educate yourself and really start to understand what people are going through because throwing money at the problem isn't always the answer, you know? You can't just shove these people aside and think they'll be fine somewhere else as long as they're not in front of you. It just you need to have some compassion.
It's powerful, powerful, and challenging as so, but life is full of challenges, and so 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 you work with your church. You have a full-time job at the banquet, and then latitudes has been created, and latitude it has it's an ongoing thing. Like, what do you do with latitudes?
So everything that I do happened by accident, and Latitude's kind of the same way. So my partner that I sing with, he had gotten asked to sing somewhere, and he wanted a piano player, so I was free. He asked me, and so we decided we are going to go sing somewhere. And then we thought, I mean, we know we can lend our voices well. Should we see if we can do this a little bit more often? And and then, as luck would have it, I passed by a garage sale that had a sound system for sale, and I was like, "This has to be a sign." So
Hmm.
we bought the sound system, we started practicing, and I think that first year we started in the summertime and we did like, I don't know, 30 shows or something like that. But once we started going to a place, then we were like, "Well, we could also go here, we could go there." And we predominantly go to nursing homes and assisted living centers because we make a difference for those people, you know? You can go to a bar and listen to music, but you don't, like, make a difference there, you know what I mean? You might have enjoyed yourself, but it's not the same as people in the nursing home, they only get the entertainment that comes into them, and some people are fantastic and some people are probably not as good, and we we are good. We sing well together, we have a little jokes and everything in between to make it entertaining, And I think one of the most rewarding things that happened was one of the nursing homes that we sang at regularly. The activity directors, the staff was pushing the residents back to their rooms after. And they came back and told us that the resident had said, I really like them. They make us feel like we're real people.
Oh,
And, you know, again, an invisible part of our population, like the homeless, that you shove them into a nursing home because they can't function the same as us anymore, or they can't remember, or they can't take care of themselves, or, you know, and they're just left there and they feel that. And when we come, we try to make them feel seen. We ask them what songs they want to hear, and we try to learn the songs that they want to hear so that they can always listen to their favorite song. And if somebody says that they like Tiny Bubbles, every time we go to that place, we sing Tiny Bubbles because that's what they want. And it makes them feel special, makes them feel important that we would do that for them.
so you must keep notes on what people ask for, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a note in my phone. Oh, this place wants this place wants this. And then when we can practice, then we can say, okay, we got to learn this, and this because we're going here next, and they want this and they want that. And and it's I mean, it's a job. It's not just like it's for fun. It is fun. It's enjoyable. We enjoy singing together, but we also really just enjoy the looks on people's faces, and it's work, it's a job, and it's one that we take great pride in. We love going to, like, memory care centers because you go in there and then, like, this one lady at a place, she's just wandering around trying to get out the door all the time because she had an appointment. She was sure she had an appointment, and her husband was coming to pick her up, which of course he wasn't. She doesn't know anything that's going on around her really, but when we start singing, she sings along with us. All the words come back. Music is just it's so powerful. And you can be in those memory care places, and then we start singing Silent Night or something at Christmas time, and everybody sings along, and they
Oh,
all know it, you know? And
that must
it
be so
you don't lose
beautiful.
that. It's amazing. And to get them to laugh with us and sing with us, and when we're done, and Jerry, my partner, he always says, okay, if you liked the music, make sure the activity directors know so they can ask us back. And then, the people are like, yeah, and they clap. And, one time they actually did like line up outside the activity director door the next day for them to reschedule us. But then he always just says, if you didn't like the music, just go back to your room and don't say nothing about it. And then they laugh because we're just having fun with them. And it's not, it's fun. And it's fun, but it matters.
It's fun and it matters both. What a combination.
We're pretty lucky that we get to do that.
So with all the amazing things you do, and and we haven't talked about them all yet. And I'm your friend. I've known you since college. We've been friends since college, and still, like, my mouth is like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So 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 you must always do. How do I want to say this? Do you always appreciate the good you create in the world?
I would say there are weeks when all I appreciate is the day being over. I don't really appreciate anything I did that day because it was a lot. Some days are a lot. Certain times of the year, at a nonprofit, our busiest time of the year is December. And as the finance manager, especially because that's when everybody wants to get their year end donations in. Guess what's busiest at Christmas time? The church, you know?
August. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah. No. So, everything kind of overlaps once in a while and it can get very overwhelming. And then that makes me be like, oh, I should maybe not do all this stuff. And then, you know, that season gets over. And then there's like 2 weeks in January where I'm not very busy. And I think to myself, what could I do to fill this space?
That's 2 weeks in January.
And then it's time to prepare for Lent and it all goes away. And I remember that, you know, I'm too busy. But
But
most
what
of
do
the
you
time,
do between Easter and December? Because that's a big leg of.
well, yeah, but that's when tropical snow is in working order, so I'm busy with that. So it's and like with the choir, like you said, how I go, more than just the regular job. The choir was always September through May, but now we sing in the summertime too, so we just don't practice as much. So there's still, everything I do has gotten to be more in the last 15 years. So it's a lot. And but every time that somebody says, "Well, maybe you should give something up. You're too tired. You're stressed out." And then and somebody else said to me one time, "Yeah, but it sounds like everything you do gives you life, helps you find meaning." And that's true. I I everything I do sometimes is really frustrating, but more times is really rewarding.
Mm. So there's both the frustration and the reward.
Right. And really, honestly, having some frustrating times makes the reward better because if you don't have to work for that, if you just float along on a cloud of rewards all the time, it's not as fulfilling, I don't find.
Speaking about a cloud of rewards, let's talk about shaped ice. How did tropical how did tropical snow come into your reality? And thanks for reminding me because I had forgotten to mention it, and it's another huge part of another big part of your life.
That also was kind of an accident. My daughter worked for Tropical Snow one summer, and then the next summer she did not work for them, but I was still following them on Facebook, and I saw that their business was for sale. And it was 2020, it was
Most people would go, "Oh, that's interesting,"
yeah,
but
no. I kinda did too, but then it was May of 2020 and my daughter was 17 and her and her boyfriend, they at the time, they were like, you know, what could they do for a job because a lot of places weren't hiring as much, and so I'm like we were playing cards one night and I just jokingly was like, "Should I see how much this costs and you guys could run it?" And they're like, "Sure." So I did, and it was more reasonable than I had anticipated, and then I was like, "Uh-oh." And so I said, "Well,
then you
ask
were
your"
like, "Uh-oh."
because once it started, I couldn't stop it. So I said, "Do you think your other friends would work for us too? Because obviously we would need to have a staff." And so they checked and they said, "Yeah." Well, then here's what really was the problem. The baseball team wasn't supposed to start for another month. And so I'm like, "Okay, we can have time to think about this." And then the current owner had messaged me and she said, "The baseball team is actually going to start next week. And so if we're going to keep our stand in the stadium, we need to be up and running by next week." And I was like, "Well, somebody better make that happen." And I guess I decided it was me. And so not only did we buy it kind of like spur of the moment, but we had 1 week to get it operational. We had 1 week to train staff, 1 week to figure out how to do scheduling, 1 week to freeze ice, make syrups, learn everything. Thank goodness my daughter had worked for them before, so she knew the technique of shaving ice, but everything else was just like it was insane. And it was kind of like we were chasing our tail that whole first summer. The second summer was less tail chasing, but we still have taken a while to get our feet under us. This is our fourth season now. So, and my daughter kind of stepped back from it. She graduated high school. She's got other jobs, other priorities. And so while I had hoped it was kind of a mother-daughter thing, and it was in the beginning, and I really appreciate the experiences that it gave her because it helped her have stepping stones into her next jobs because she had management experience already at 17. And without her and Andy, it would never have happened. The business would not have happened. But it's it's really fun though because we have the best flavors. Tropical snow is nationwide and even in other countries. So if you have a tropical snow nearby you, try it out. I guarantee you it's better than any other snow cones you've had anywhere else. And I could go into the details of why, but it doesn't matter. Just trust me, go try one. but it's a lot of fun. It makes people happy. When I train kids, I like to give a lot of the kids who work for us are like 14. We're their first job. And
Mm,
I like that because I want to teach them how to work, but I also want to teach them how to be treated by their employer, how
mm,
to communicate with their employer. So when I hire them, when I'm interviewing them, I always say to them, what do you think you would do if a family comes up and you hand the kid their cone? They have a big top on them. Hand the kid the cone and the top falls off and they start crying. What should you do? And they're always kind of like, make them a new one. But like that's what their instinct is, but they're afraid that I'm going to say that's not the right answer. But I'm like, absolutely, that's the right answer. The cost that goes into making the shaved ice is not worth crying. There's no
mm,
crying in shaved ice.
mm,
That's my rule.
mm,
So,
mm,
we try to make sure everybody is happy when they leave there and
mm.
that they had a good experience with us. So,
There's no crying in shaved ice.
no crying in baseball, says Tom Hanks, and no crying in shaved ice, says me.
That's I see you speaking at the national convention sometime.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of things that involve a high degree of stress. Your December's extremely stressful. Preparing a tropical snow stand within a week when you know nothing about shaved ice is extremely stressful. How would you say you deal with stress and at the same time get things done?
I think, first of all, my biggest blessing in my life is flexibility in everything I do because my job at the banquet allows me the flexibility to take care of something else if I need to, as long as I come back and get my job done. And without that, I wouldn't be able to do any of the other stuff that I do. But when somebody, and in December, for instance, somebody says, "Hey, you want to go to this Christmas party with me, or do you want to go look at Christmas lights?" I never say no. And that's because that little break might only be a half hour, an hour, an evening, but it like refreshes me so that I can go back the next day and keep working because I'm not going to get anything done in that time period for my job that isn't going to wait till the next day. Sometimes you got to work a little faster, sometimes you got to let things go, but it's so important for me personally, friends and family, top notch. That's my biggest priority. So when I have an opportunity to do something with them, I make every effort to make it happen. And that's how I replenish myself.
So it's not always nose to the grindstone. It's your philosophy is work hard, yes, and take on a lot, yes, but also to take breaks, huh?
Yeah. Plus, I love what I do. So, Christmas time, choir practices last 3 hours. It's insane. And I am like, oh, so stressed walking into choir and so stressed walking out. But also, there's those moments right in the middle where all the harmonies line up and everything went the way it was supposed to. And it's like, take joy in that moment. And then the rest of it doesn't seem so stressful, you know? Or when you're working on something at the office and you got everything lined up in this spreadsheet and it's all like, and then all of a sudden it falls into place and you're like, hey, spreadsheets are awesome. And it just, if you find a little joy in that, it makes the stress not so bad.
So take breaks and find joy when things work. How good is that? How often when something works do we struggle to get it to work, but then go on to the worrying about the next thing instead of going, holy cow, that actually worked.
I tend to I don't know how I got this way, but I tend to kind of forget the bad stuff sometimes. And so when I get away from choir practice, then I remember all the things that went right and I forget about some of the much stress that went into it. Like, I already forgot 3 hours before when I was stressed leading into choir practice. Like, I just only can remember the good stuff that happened in choir practice. I just there's so many good things that happen and so many I love funny stories. Everything that happens that's funny, I'm gonna tell everybody, whether it's something they wanna hear or not. And if I just focus on those things, then the rest of it doesn't really seem that bad.
Well, really try and remember the good stuff. Focus on the good stuff, and then, but you don't actually let the bad stuff go. You just kind of put it out of your memory somehow.
I don't know how, really. I think it probably goes all the way back to when I was sharing Leah with her dad. You know, it sucked to only have her with me half the time, but I just didn't let it suck. I just was like, "Okay, she's at her dad's today. She is probably happy. It's good for her. Focus on that, how good it is for her. Don't focus on how bad it is for you. That's not, you know." And same thing with, you know, choir stress or work stress. Yeah, it's stressful for me, but think about what it's doing for somebody else. When Latitude has to go on the road and in the middle of December when we are busy also, I'm like, I have all these checks to process. I have all these reports to do and it's insane. And I don't know how I'm going to take a day off work, but I leave work and then I am also like, first of all, think about the joy we get just from hanging out together and traveling together and, going someplace new. But then think about the, 20, 30, 40, 50 people at every show who had a better day because I got out of my own space and went and focused on them for an hour instead of being so focused on my own stress, my own busyness, my own, you know, whatever. Then it's not about me. It's not about my stress. It's about what my stress does for other people.
Oh, so focusing on others too. Is all that stuff works together, and and then you teach water aerobics. How did that come about?
Also, another accident. I was attending classes because the gym is on my way to work, and so I started taking water aerobics classes. And then one day the instructor was gone, and I kind of like just watched the clock and yelled out the directions that were listed on the wall. And a lady said to me, "I think they're looking for subs. You should be a sub." And so I'm like, "Hey, do you need any subs?" And they said, "Oh, maybe."
Because you needed another thing to do.
Yeah. Well, and so anyways, I started subbing and then I had 1 class and then I had 2 classes and then I had 6 classes and I'm like, because 'cause I've been there for 15 years also or almost 15 years. And so anyways, I've fluctuated between, 1 class to 5 classes to 1 class. I had 6 classes for the last, like, 18 months or so, and then I'm like, this is too much." So I went down, now I only have, like, 3 or 4 classes a week, but I love the people in the class. And so, the one class, if I stop teaching that class isn't going to exist. And those ladies have been coming to the pool for 25 years to that class. I'm not going to take that away from them. Again, it's about them. They want that class. So I'm going to show up every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning and teach it for them because I love them. And they're, most of that class, I think the youngest person's in her 60s and a lot of them are in their 80s. I mean, why would I take that class away from them? That would be horrible. Plus they're funny, they have life stories, they have advice, they always know the daily deal at the grocery store. I mean, the conversations they just can't be beat. So, and plus it's good exercise. I would never ever make time to go to the gym if I didn't have to. I don't like the gym. I don't like getting my face wet. Yeah, water aerobics is a really weird thing that fell into my life because I'm not athletic and yeah, I don't like the water that much, but,
And
um,
you don't have to get your face wet, do you?
not usually because the 80-year-olds don't splash around a lot. If I teach a class with a little bit younger people in it, then my face might get splashed, but I try not to let it happen. But, you know, I get a free membership to the gym Great life has other perks that come with it, which is awesome. And I get to hang out with my friends and get paid for it. So, I mean, yeah, why not?
Ho if I had asked when you were 7 years old, what Shiloh, what do you want to do when you grow up? What would you have said?
I wanted to be a teacher. That's what I wanted to be the whole time I was growing up. I think I mean, I grew up in a small town and I kinda read a lot of books and closed my mind off to the real world, and I didn't really know a lot of what was out there, you know? So I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna be a teacher." My Aunt Dorothy was one of my favorite people. She was my teacher in 1st and 2nd grade, and I loved her always and forever, and I wanted to be a teacher. And then I started college, and I'm like, "I don't really know about this," and then also turns out I don't really like kids that much. So, being a teacher is not really a good path, but I teach water aerobics. I teach people about the banquet. I teach people about how to volunteer. I teach people how to read music. I teach people I try to teach people how to have compassion and kindness. I think maybe I am a teacher. It's just not the way I thought it was gonna be.
And you do teach piano lessons.
I do teach piano lessons, but again, kids aren't my favorite, so I have just enough students because more than that I think would make me crazy, but I love watching them figure stuff out. I love watching them learn, and it's good. I love thinking about the fact that those kids might someday be playing for church somewhere, you know, that
Mm,
kid that I'm
mm.
teaching might come full circle and be back in that church playing the piano, and it's and even if they're not, my mom always used to say she could tell if I had a bad day because I had this one song I would always play when I came home. It was the only song I've ever really memorized, and I would play it either, like, nicely or really fast and crazy depending on my mood, and that's how she knew if she could approach me or not. Um, and so that's what I teach kids too I don't just teach them to play the notes, I try to teach them to love what they're doing. Like, piano is for fun. It's not it's not for work, it's not for stress, it's for relief. It's for getting away from your family to for a minute to, ignore your siblings because you have to play the piano right then, or in my case, play the piano and make them crazy because it was in the same room as the television. But it's it's for it's for you. It's for you. Do it for you.
That this brings up perfectly. What does that say behind you?
It says music is not what I do, it's who I am.
Well, well, and you do that in so many. You embody what that says in so many ways.
I think that when I was in college and, when you knew me first in college, I don't think that you would have thought that about me, that I was a musician. That wasn't probably the number one thing you knew about me. But when I was in high school, that was definitely what people knew me as. And now it is too. And I think that I like it better that way.
That's so neat that we gave yourself through a variety of circumstances permission to remember that and to not only remember that but to do it, and not only to play but to share with so many people.
I just told my dad recently, thank you so much for paying for all my piano lessons because mom probably was the one who wanted me to take lessons and he made it happen, but dad was the one who probably paid for them, and, um, what a tremendous gift that was for me.
That gives me goosebumps because that's an investment.
Oh,
But
yeah.
think of how many people have been touched by that investment.
Yeah, yeah, and I know it was hard to pay for them sometimes, but I'm really glad that they made the effort to do that.
So So you grew up in a small town. What lessons from living in a small town have enhanced your life?
Gosh, that's hard. I think I don't know. I like to know everybody around me. That's probably why I get involved in so many things because I just want to know who's around me. I also think that it makes you realize that the people around you are probably paying attention and, you know, act like everybody knows who you are and that they know what you're going to do and they're going to go tell your parents or tell your family. And, you know, I don't know. There's a kindness, I think, to us in a small town because you know everybody, and I try to give that to everybody around me so that they
Mm,
feel known,
that's amazing. Glad I asked. So,
but I came up with something good to answer it with.
thank you. So I ask every one of my guests this question. I could have just said all my guests, but I said every one of my guests. I guess to make it more dramatic, but to me, doing my imperfect best means that I envision the best I want to achieve, and then when I go for mistakes, I make mistakes or experience frustrations or what have you. Instead of stopping, I try to use those things as learning tools and motivation to again move towards my best. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you, Shiloh Oorlog?
For me, it just kinda means, like, don't think that you have to start out with all the knowledge and all the skills and it's gonna be perfect right away. I I did not go to school to be a choir director. I make a lot of mistakes still, but it's either I cover them up or it turns out good enough anyway, and same with, like, water aerobics. I don't know anything about fitness, but I learn it as I go, and everybody around you is making mistakes too. You're not the only one making a mistake. So we're all just doing our best, you know? Give yourself the same compassion to make mistakes and not be perfect as you do someone else.
Hmm, powerful. Oh, I wanted to ask this question, but then it slipped my mind, so I'll ask it now, and this will truly be the last question. But you said a lot of the things that happened in your life that moved you forward and from the basis of your career happened by accident. What ideas would you give people about about capitalizing on the accidents that happen in their lives?
I think that if you spend all of your time like thinking that before I do this, that has to be right and I have to do this perfect to get to that next step and here's my end goal and that's all I can focus on is getting to that goal and all the steps have to be in place. When you focus on that, you're not going to be happy as soon as you could be as if you say, "Well, this is what's happening now, so I guess I'm going to enjoy it." And maybe that's not the direction I was supposed to go. And whatever next thing comes into my path, I'm going to enjoy that too because isn't it a lot easier to just enjoy the things that happen to you and the space that you're in than it is to always be thinking about the next thing, the next place, the next like who cares about the next thing, you know? I think a lot about like people I've known who've passed away when they were young and they had all these goals and all these things that they had set up that they were going to do and they missed out on all these little things along the way because they said no to them because they thought they could do it tomorrow. And we can't necessarily, you know. Tomorrow's tomorrow. Enjoy today, you know. Something comes up and you're like, okay. I don't say no very often. I don't say no to a road trip. I don't say no to watching my nieces and nephews. I don't say no to going to a ball game. I don't say no to somebody
Being
once
on a
told
podcast.
to being on a pot. I mean, I did say no to that first, but in the end I said yes. And I'm glad I did. But A lot more good comes from yes than it does from no in my life.
Hmm. A lot more good comes from yes than it does from no. Powerful. Thanks so much, my friend. First of all, for being my friend for so long, but
Tough
that
job, but I'm glad I stuck it out with you.
thank you. And then thanks for taking the time to be on Awkwardly Awesome Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
That was so enjoyable for me. I hope you found it enjoyable too. But Shiloh and I have known each other since college, a long time. But I found out so many things today that I didn't know before, and I was really so inspired by what Shiloh said. Like, always, I encourage you to be curious about the people around you. Ask them questions about what you want to know, and celebrate the answers, and just see what great conversations you can create. Thanks for tuning in this week. There'll be a tune in again next Wednesday for another exciting guest. And if you're watching the replay of this, thanks for watching that too. And please leave any comments you want to leave. We love comments, and most of all, thanks for being you, and thanks for doing all you do in the world. Have a great day or night whenever you're watching this.